So, hello, Mark.
Hi, Dave.
For anybody who's not familiar with you, tell me who you are, what you do, where you work, what your life's like.
Sure. I run the AV practice for SMW, and I'm here at the show looking for a technology that is in the consumer space that would be relevant to our clients. And those clients can be corporate clients, hospitality, even medical equipment. And all those areas are going to see outcomes percolate up from this consumer space that may be relevant to them.
And we've seen that over the last, I don't know, 10 or 12 years. I've been coming here, we were talking about it before, probably close to 30 years at this point, where this is like our 18 to 24-month look ahead into what's going on in technology. And we'll see something. I know this happened to me personally. I'll see something that I've never seen before at the show, and then like about a year and a half later, we'll see it in one of the stores. I'll say, "Hey, look at that!" I say, "Oh, that's nothing. I saw that,
Yeah.
a year and a half ago."
That's the key thing, Dave, is that we know from the experience of being at the show several times, the most fantastic products that you really want to get your hands on are still light years away, right? And we're not looking at those specific products more as this trend. For example, I think the automotive industry, right? Well, it's not really related to corporate, but some of the things they're doing in terms of the dashboard, the user interface. If you're traveling at 75 miles an hour in a car, what are you going to look at? How are you going to look at it? You, even though you're not traveling that fast in a meeting room, you still are thinking through this, how you use it, read things, how you use the text. So it's all becomes relevant even in these other markets.
And we were here in Las Vegas early. My family had come out with me for New Year's Eve. Lord knows why they wanted to do it here. But very hard to get cars. So by the time we picked up our rental car, all they had were like the real luxury cars left. So it took me a good 2 days to figure out how to use the dashboard on a car that I hadn't rented before. Which menu is it? I asked the guy. I was looking for the lever to adjust the wheel, and he showed me where the button was. So yeah, it's a lot of the what's intuitive, what kind of user interfaces. What we do, what we've done for years in rooms, is now relevant to how can we do it quickly without breaking concentration from the road. Or maybe we're putting a car on autonomous drive, which they're all talking about now, and playing with the radio.
Is it a car? I mean, what we talk about AV, the definition of AV, in the car space, it's really now a glorified computer, right? So that is a lot like our distribution with technology in any other platform. Microsize the spaces, make it consistent, reliable, effective. That's going to transcend.
And one last car thing, again, with this rental car, we were pulling it into the spot, against the column, and I was going very slowly as I normally would. I was trying to get up as close to the column as I could because the back sticks out. And when it got to a certain point, it wouldn't let me go anymore. It put the brakes on. It says you're too close to the column. So yeah, these things are now smarter, and that's one of the pieces of technology. We've had smart technology for 10 years, but is the smart technology actually becoming wise to what's around it?
Yeah, and I'm going to go a little further deeper into that because I saw this. One of the honorees in technology, I think one of the winners in innovation, is Deere for their tractor, and it's an autonomous tractor, right? Okay, so what? Okay, we don't really think we're going to engage with autonomous tractors, but what's behind or under the hood is NVIDIA, which is developing a platform, and we call this infrastructure as a service, so this cloud platform that allows the developers to create both the user experience and the physical devices at the same time concurrently. So where you previously would be physically making the components to make the car, because of the amount of software and tech that's in there, you need to ride both concurrently and understand how the user experience is going to be and develop all of the dashboards in parallel to deliver to market. So seeing companies that are in the multimedia space like NVIDIA provide this opportunity for these manufacturing companies to develop their products shows us the synergy and shows us the value of looking at this larger picture of where cloud and platforms can be subscribed to, can be utilized, where you may not have in your smaller businesses the full ability to build these products out because you don't have the arsenal of tools. Almost like the way Amazon would have their cloud services and be able to have subscriptions to that service built out. I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, no, that is really interesting. We are seeing a lot more of what I'll refer to as embedded technology, if I'm reading the press releases correctly. And this is Tuesday before the show opens. We get to see unveiled tonight, and the rest of the press releases tomorrow. I'm seeing a lot of things. It's not my new widget. And there are plenty of widgets. There are plenty of new things that I can't talk about from my company, and plenty of new things from a lot of other companies that you can hold in your hands and use. But there's also a lot of emails coming to us about AR and VR that's embedded, about smarts intelligence that's embedded, about things that typically were used for one thing. We were talking before we started recording about how the hearables are now starting to be able to do other things. So I mean, I guess that's technology that you're kind of looking out for as well.
Yeah, I think when I'm reading some of the tech about the augmented reality headsets, I think this is the year where we're finally seeing the problem and solution to merge, right? Because the technology of the windowing of how big the data is in the window, the quality of the information that's being provided in a format that's actually like a pair of glasses is very, very close. And we're already seeing, I'm seeing some associates that are in the medical equipment space, surgeons and other people who really want to be able to get products that can do that. So I think this is going to be the year where we see these products, these wearable products, particularly in the augmented reality space, start to really come together.
Yeah, and it's interesting. We're at the CES, which used to stand for Consumer Electronics Show. I believe that augmented reality and virtual reality are not going to be a consumer play. We learned from 3D TVs that people will not put on glasses they don't need to wear when they're hanging out at home. You've seen a lot of the augmented reality glasses be made fun of in some of the commercials on TV now, that people are wearing it, falling on their living room and knocking over lamps. And if a lockdown where we all had to stay home for plus or minus 3 years didn't have it kick off, I know it's in its early stages, but still, that's not it. But you're right. For surgery, for the military,
for training. And in fact, I think that's the thing we're seeing is when the economy starts to tank, then people, right now, there's a slush of workplaces, right? But when we see the other things happen, people are out of work, there's a big demand for training skills, improving skills. And even then, even we're looking at electric car services and other technologies like that, training and services. That delivery of that information, I believe, is a sweet spot for augmented reality. Not just the headsets, but the other area I think is very interesting are these avatars for training purposes. You'll see several companies that are putting out products where, we talked before about the fear of reality and not being able to distinguish the difference between a human and an artificial being, right? You can't, right? Not only are their lips in perfect sync, their smiles, everything is exactly as if it's human. And you fear that, but when you put it to use, so for example, if I'm training a course and I can do all of my notes and provide all the training material, hand that over and have an avatar represent me, or represent the firm, that's the image of the firm, that speaks the way I want it to speak, that delivers the message. And if I change the message, I just change a bit of text. I don't have a recording studio. I don't have to have any of the hardware to create lots and lots of training material out the door that's digestible and it's addressed to a specific audience, either in the voice or in the context that's there, or the images are all qualified by the HR departments in order to be effective, rather than just being me.
And you also can take that, in terms of creation, and you can scale it. You can change the logo for different companies. You can change exactly what's being said, and it's very easy to do without having to go through recording all over again.
Yes, yeah, I think that's going to be really hot. The other thing you mentioned hearables, so let's just talk about that because the term wearables was a part of our vernacular, but now the term hearables is a subset of wearables. And because of the FCC change and allowing for not requiring a prescription for hearing aids, this is the perfect storm in which you would think that you would see the consumer market for wireless earbuds to take off, right? And in particular, and I see a lot of this in the open space corporate spaces where people are putting on headphones to block out the sound, but the leadership wants people to be engaged. There's a real challenge of how do I have a noisy environment or an active environment still get my work done, right? So if I can selectively point my head and direct sound to someone else at a distance and hear them perfectly well and be able to shed down the other people that are in the space of the noise, the ambience, I win, right? Because I can be more productive. So I do think that that's a very, very important space, but it's really challenged because it looks great until you get deeper dive into some of the challenges around the actual technology. And in fact, maybe Dave, you can talk a little bit because we did a little bit about Bluetooth and low energy Bluetooth, because that seems to be a very hot space this year.
Well, it's an offshoot of this entire area of sustainability, which I've talked about before and I'll talk about again because it's actually really important. You're not necessarily going to see companies with their products out at the show this year that are going to be leaps and bounds better than they were last year. But you will see a lot of organizations saying, look, we've cut down on the packaging by 25%. We now have the same power in our systems, but we're using 25% less energy. Multiple examples. We're now using recycled materials in there. People care about this now. It's not. It was something that was nice to have before, but now employees are looking to their employers to say, are they sustainable companies? Organizations purchasing for enterprise are now looking. Are they sourcing sustainably? And then I think you're going to start to see a lot more that creep into computer power supplies not taking as much energy, not as much phantom energy. When it's off, but still being on. And same thing with low power devices of all kinds are going to start using less energy to be more sustainable, to last longer, to need less recharging, to need less battery changes.
Yes. Well, let's talk specifically about the Bluetooth standard with the LE, because the low energy is opening up the door to what I would call a broadcast mode. So for the first time, you're going to be able to see devices shared on multiple clients. So now I can have a session and I can broadcast out. So what's happened is the standard previously, that group, was a lot of fiefdom around the codecs, and everyone was seeking highest quality. And now I think we're seeing established not any better quality in the audio performance, but more features, lower energy, and more capabilities in the platform. I still think we're going to have the same frustrations on syncing, the same things where phones, when you leave the house, it's still synced to some device. That I don't think they're solving that, at least this year. But this is, I think, a very useful space for further development.
Well, wouldn't it be nice if true wireless earbuds, instead of just being these devices that stick in your ear, actually came with a little control center that you'd be able to manage all of that?
Yes, yes, I think that would be interesting to have a little bit more information, because there's going to be a lot more choice that you have to make. And whether it's on the phone or on the device. The other part of this, I think, you talk about power. I ran across how many years we asked for power without wires, right? Wireless power.
Yeah, and we've seen it at the show before.
Yeah.
It's just not technically scalable right now.
It's getting closer. That concept, and because now they have the standard called Qi, and I think that's probably going to be, when you have wireless charging for example, at your phone, and you stick it down at the table. People are doing that all over in the corporate market, and yet you got to have power at the table. So, but if you can charge that by using this device in the ceiling and charge the devices, for the first time again, I'm seeing some real more structure around that product space. So I do think that's coming sooner than later.
Great. Any other things we haven't talked about that you're expecting to see at the show this year? Trends, technology?
Well, I think the one that's always been that's been frustrating over a period of time is when you look at display technology, and of course we've got this quantum dot OLED stuff happening. So we'll see a lot more blurbs about brighter picture and features around QLED. But the concept I think that I saw interesting come out was this HDMI 2.1a standard, which talks about quick media switching, which previously, if you had your inputs, at least in the corporate market, it's such a pain. You switch inputs on the display and it blanks out, right? You're waiting for the display to sync up again. And that syncing process now, they're creating a method so that it allows for it to support multiple frequency shifting. So you can get a display snapping on from HDMI input to HDMI input. So I think that's going to be really helpful for people. It's made more for movies and source channels than it is for gaming. But I think that's going to be really good.
But we're sitting here in my suite in the Delano using the poly technology to record us. I wanted to put a picture up on the screen in the room of what was going on at CS, because over the next couple of days I'm going to be streaming a lot of the press conferences we don't go to. Interestingly, when I plugged the HDMI into the wall, the TV set turned on, and it switched over to HDMI. It was at least smart enough to know that I didn't have to do that. And that's the difference of the smart technology that we're seeing today versus the smart technology that we'd seen a few years ago. It's not that it's any smarter, but it now figures out what needs to be done and does it. And that's really where a lot of the stuff is going. I know that there's been some down conversations about voice first technology, how much money Amazon is losing in the product, and it hasn't gotten quite as smart as we wanted it to. But that's the kind of thing. It's like I don't want a voice assistant to tell me that the lawn is dry. I want the voice assistant to tell me Nothing. I want the voice assistant to say, figure out the lawn is dry, tell the lawnmower to wake up, tell it to go out and water the grass and cut the grass, and then take care of it. And I didn't have to do anything. That's, we talked about that a few years ago, the refrigerators that realize there aren't enough milk and eggs and just order them from the store. We're not there yet,
Yeah.
but that's the kind of technology that we're
Yeah.
looking for smart. So can it do it all by itself?
Yeah, and I guess the other thing that I'm looking for is this concept around open platform standards versus the fiefdoms we've seen in the past, right? Is this the year in which the companies continue to double down on their ecosystem being the only game in town, or are we going to see more opportunities for there to be relationships built? As I said, with the autonomous cars, autonomous development of products, I think there is more chance for the relationships to be built because they're less threatening. But I still see the same LG environment, the Samsung environments, and they're just continuing to get accolades for their product and innovations rather than having accolades for the glue that allows for the platforms to come together. Mm-hmm. And I still think the other thing I think we got to look out for is security. This is because when we're in this situation where money is premium, security of our information, security of our data, we see a lot of innovations there, so they're not product specific, but I think we'll see safety, security measures to become really important qualifiers for the selection of products in the future.
And I hope we're at the time where we can finally start to get rid of passwords. They are just a pain for everybody. I forget the gentleman who spoke about creating the hard password. Apologized to everybody years ago. We've now seen some password management companies be completely breached.
Yeah.
The strong passwords now are insane. I know you're in the enterprise world as I am as well. The passwords get to be so crazy that you can't possibly remember them, so you have to write them down or text them to yourself, which kills the whole point of having the password.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping this is the year we'll start to use more biometrics. We'll start to use some more two-factor authentication and get rid of the crazy passwords.
What about NFTs? I mean, they were really a part of the bubbled up last year as being something nifty and cool. Any thoughts on that space?
I think the crash of crypto sort of takes the NFT piece away. At least I don't see anybody talking about it as a hype storm like we were last year. I don't think you're going to see a lot of them at the show this year, and that's a good thing. Sometimes we try technology and it's the greatest thing in the world, and sometimes people come out saying the technology is the greatest thing in the world, jumping on it too early, metaverse, and then it falls apart and realize that they've overinvested and they've got to pull back. So it's good to get this advanced look anyway, and I usually have a pretty good nose for sniffing what's going to stick around and what's going to fall apart.
There was 2 points on that one. One was Samsung is supposed to have these giant NFTs sneakers. So because there's a new product which I think is kind of cool. We have wine, perfect temperature wine. They've got a perfect temperature for your special sneakers because there's a big market for that, right? People buy branded artist branded sneakers and other systems like that. So they want to protect that investment. So they need to have a space that is the right humidity and temperature, right? So what Samsung's doing to sell that is to have a giant sneaker NFT and you can create colors and stuff like that. So I was like, this is a space that we're looking at. It's a transactional space of what's real, how do I own it? But on top of that, the other thing that's happening is on the metaverse is 7-Eleven is announcing the first metaverse store. So it's supposed to be like super high resolution.
The first experience. One? I mean, I can go back to Second Life and talk about that being the first.
Well, you go into the store and you can buy things like a Slurpee. And then when you buy the Slurpee, then your avatar changes colors, things like that. So it's kind of interesting when the metaverse space starts to get buyers, right? People that are sponsorship into this space, I think is obviously necessary so that there's more in there. We have opinions about what's going to happen in that space, and really what we're seeing in the near future is application of those technologies towards training development and professional enhancement or personal enhancement, enrichment is, I think, much more attractive than
consumer.
Yeah, consumer game experience. Yeah.
Mark, Chen Wilson Wilkie, thank you very much.
Thank
I appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
We will hopefully we'll talk after the show, and we'll get you on one of the shows. We'll get some of your reactions to what you saw and what we were predicting versus what we actually saw.
Sounds great. Thank you very much, Dave.
Thanks.